What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here. Welcome to our daily show where we discuss everything going on here in our country that you need to know about here on a daily basis. We got several things to cover here for you guys in this video. Let's jump right in. Democratic Representative Tim Ryan, who's now running for the Senate seat, which is an open seat in Ohio, said he prefers tax cuts over student loan debt forgiveness because it would cover a lot more people. He says he supports a broader package of debt relief and a tax cut for all working people over the student loan forgiveness plan announced by Biden. Ryan, who is running for a U.S. Senate seat in Ohio, said that a targeted measure helping only those with student loan debt sends the wrong message since a lot of Americans are struggling. Quote, there's a lot of people out there making 30, 40 grand a year that didn't go to college, and they need help as well, which is why I've been proposing a tax cut for working people that will affect everybody, he said. With the student loan piece in my proposal, you could very easily allow them to renegotiate down the interest rates. Ryan on Sunday agreed that the cost of college is, quote, outrageous, but pointed out the Biden administration has no plan to tackle rising costs. Well, that's not really true. I'll get to that here in a second. Meaning, another generation would also struggle with student loan debt if nothing is done to fix the system. He says, quote, one of the stupidest things we've done in this country is tell everybody they have to go to college. I mean, that was a huge mistake. And so here we are, and we've done nothing to control the cost of college, right? So we're going to be in the same position here in 5 years. Now, remember that in a previous version of the Build Back Better package was 2 years of free community college, okay? That was voted down by all the Republicans. So we could have passed that. That was a plan to try to combat the cost of college. All the Republicans voted no on that, and then this new Inflation Reduction Act was whittled down by Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema because there wasn't enough votes to pass it. No Republicans voted for it, and then they had to confine by what Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema would vote for. So there was a plan to combat the high cost of college, which now can be $25,000 to $50,000 a year, depending on where you go and room and board included or not. Which for most people they need room and board and food. Um, so this is one of the problems here, and you can't say that college has to be done because a lot of professions require college. Teachers, nurses, doctors, lawyers. I mean, you can't be a doctor without going to college. You can't be a teacher without going to college. You can't be a nurse without going to college. There's so many professions that require a college degree. More and more professions today just literally require a college degree. You physically cannot get a job there without a college degree. So this is the problem with the system, and college, just like healthcare, continues to get more and more expensive every year. And again, we've heard, this will provide relief to about 43 million Americans. For 20 million Americans, round numbers here, it will completely wipe off their student loan debt so that they will be able to pay for other things, like food and rent and stuff like that. So this is a huge stimulus program type of relief for tens of millions of Americans, okay? The next program, well, who knows what it'll be. We know we have a huge food stamp SNAP program coming next month in September. Okay, I'll keep up to date on that. We've had rent assistance, mortgage assistance, utility assistance, and all these state programs, state stimulus checks. I've been keeping you up to date on those. And again, who knows what the next program would be. Now, Republicans are saying that they're going to potentially challenge this in a court of law. It might go all the way to the Supreme Court. It might take away this aid to 43 million Americans. which again, I don't benefit from this student loan forgiveness. I think that would be a travesty because 87% of the people that get this aid are people that make under $75,000. Nobody gets this that makes under 100, makes over $125,000. So even like doctors and stuff aren't getting this. Okay, so even though they had to go to school, and doctors got to go to school for like what 6 or 8 years or something like that. So imagine how much debt they got to take on. But it's just it's really tough here because a lot of people, and then there's a lot of people that go to school and then don't finish, don't even get a degree, still have to pay tens of thousands of dollars in student loans. A lot of people, I've seen a lot of comments of people that said they've been paying on their loans for years. I seen somebody comment, they had a comment saying, yeah, I had $30,000 in student loan, Jimmy, and but now it's $50,000. Now it's $50,000 because of how much interest. The interest just keeps piling up and piling up. The interest has been paused here for the last 2 years, but when you have years and years and years of this, think of the average everyday American that this affects. It's really tough. And if you go to try to get a good job, think of the millions and millions of people that this affects. Yeah. And again, I'm under the state of mind to celebrate people when they get help, not to hate against them. Again, because the next program that comes out could be for you. And I wouldn't want to take that. And again, who knows? This could be for you. But I think that we should be happy for people when this comes out here. And this might get taken away, which would be a sad, sad thing here. So let me know your thoughts here in the comments. Next up, Republican Senator Roy Blunt from Missouri, deep red state, says Trump should have turned over all the documents here today. Here's what he has to say.
Speaking of Republican Senator Roy Blunt of Missouri right now. Senator, thanks for joining us again on This Week. You heard former President Trump in Pierre's piece saying he did nothing wrong. Do you agree with that? Was he right to take these documents to Mar-a-Lago?
Well, I think we need to know more about the documents. One of the things I was concerned about when I heard about this so-called raid or seizing these documents was why hadn't the Intelligence Committee that I've been on for my time in the Senate and time in the House, why hadn't we heard anything about this? In fact, if the administration was concerned that there was a national security problem, I got immediately involved with Chairman Warner and Vice Chairman Rubio and said, we need to get a letter out right now to the Justice Department and the Director of National Intelligence, say, if there really is a problem, why haven't you told us about that problem? That hasn't happened yet, but the Director of National Intelligence announced, I think on Friday, that she's going to be briefing the committee soon, and then we'll know what the problem is. But I will say this, we hadn't been told there was a problem, and if this has been going on for months,
but Senator,
there was a problem.
Point.
The Oversight Committee should have been told.
That's a fair point, and we'll find out why they weren't or what was going on. It was probably to protect the criminal investigation. But setting that aside, whether or not these documents were classified, was it right for the president to take these government documents, which he's supposed to turn over to the National Archives, down to Mar-a-Lago?
You should be very careful with classified documents. I've had access to documents like that for a long time. I'm incredibly careful. I was wondering as I was listening to that discussion if the same things were said when Secretary Clinton had documents, when Director Comey had documents. They had them on the internet, which is much more dangerous than having them in a box somewhere. But everybody needs to be more careful about how these documents are dealt with.
Senator, you're still not answering.
We need to be sure we don't characterize them differently.
Well, you're not answering any question. You were critical of Senator Clinton, who actually turned over what she had, turned over all her devices. What we have here is a situation where the president did not turn over these documents. Can you say whether that was right or wrong? Do you believe it was right for the president to take those documents to Mar-a-Lago?
He should have turned the documents over and apparently had turned a number of documents over. George, what I wonder about is why this could go on for almost 2 years and less than 100 days before the election. Suddenly we're talking about this rather than the economy or inflation or even the student loan program you and I were going to talk about today.
Well, it went on because the president didn't turn over the documents, correct? He was asked several times. He didn't turn them over. He was subpoenaed. He didn't respond to the subpoena.
these documents apparently, good thing they're going to have a special master look at these documents to sort through the documents that the president had every right to have and the documents that he hadn't yet turned over. I understand he turned over a lot of documents. He should have turned over all of them. I imagine he knows that very well now as well.
Well, he hasn't said that. He said he did nothing wrong. But I do want to ask you about President Biden's decision to forgive student loan debt. Your reaction?
Well, I think, I'm the first person in my family to graduate from college. I was a university president for 4 years. Higher education is important. It should impact the way people live their lives. I just thought it was monumentally unfair. Unfair to people who didn't go to college because they didn't think they could afford it. Unfair to people who had paid their loans back. Unfair to people who got higher education in an area that the government didn't make loans. And just bad economics in addition to that. I think it's going to have a long-term devastating effect on a student loan program that had worked pretty effectively until about 10 years ago when the federal government assumed responsibility for that program.
Most economists who've looked at it said it's not going to increase inflation.
Well, if that's what they're thinking, most economists are wrong. You can't forgive that much debt and assume people won't spend the money for other things. It's certainly going to take about $24 billion that should have been coming into the federal government every year in payments and make that available for more spending. You know, the president says it's going to grow the economy. So how it doesn't impact inflation and grows the economy, you've got $300 to maybe $500 billion going back into the economy in 10 years at a time when the Federal Reserve chairman is saying we've got to do everything we can to slow the economy down. You don't slow the economy down by forgiving debt and giving people another $24 billion to spend that they would have been spending paying off the student debt that they borrowed. And when you paid off the student debt that they borrowed, other people have a chance to have that money in the future to use for their opportunity to go to college. You know, Pell Grants matter. I've been one of the great advocates in the Congress for well over a decade of Pell Grants that help people go to school who can't afford to go to school. Pell Grant recipients are going to be treated differently in this way than others, but there's a way to do this that's fair to people.
So did you hear his argument for that? He said, don't help these people because then they'll have money to use for other things that they otherwise wouldn't have. So presumably you could think that they would have money for food, money for rent, that they otherwise wouldn't have. This is that line of thinking that he's saying there. So if that's the case, if you just follow that line of thinking, that don't help anybody. There's really because then they would put that money back into the economy. And we wouldn't want to put money into the economy because that could further inflation. Yeah. So, alrighty. Yeah, so this is the kind of line of thinking that you get sometimes from Congress. Let me know your thoughts here. I don't know. I mean, 60% of Americans right now are living paycheck to paycheck, are living in debt, are behind on bills, and yet we're hearing from congressmen that say don't help people. You know, and then we'll also hear the same congressman say, "Oh, student loans, you know, the cost of college is a major problem." And they'll say this for years and years and years and years. And what's the solution? They'll just and yet they'll want you to donate to them for their for their reelection campaigns, right? We don't have money, you know. It's just like 60% of Americans don't have any money. They're living paycheck to paycheck, but they want you to donate to them for their reelection campaigns. But when it comes to like people getting help, in this case, student loan forgiveness, you know, in other cases, rent assistance, mortgage assistance, utility assistance, stimulus checks, unemployment bonuses, paycheck protection program. Oh no, we can't do that. That could boost the economy. And meanwhile, these congressmen, they go into Congress and they get rich. They're worth tens of millions of dollars. Somehow they become rich. A lot of these congressmen, they're just so out of touch. Republican, Democrat, anything, right? So, I mean, let me know your thoughts here, but it's just like this is the problem here with and this is why I say that when people get help, whether it's student loan forgiveness, rent assistance, mortgage assistance, unemployment bonuses, state stimulus checks, tax relief. We should celebrate this. We should be like, that's great. What's the next program? How do we get, what's the next program to help Americans? When it's tax cuts for corporations, when it's tax cuts for, large wealthy, for billionaires, and billionaires are getting, paying effective tax rates of less than teachers, and corporations are paying 0% taxes or very small taxes. That gets swept under the rug. We've talked about it here on our channel, but most people don't even know this. And yet people are mad that 43 million Americans, 87% of them are people making under $75,000. People are mad at that. People are mad that regular, average, everyday Americans are getting help. That's shouldn't be what we were mad at. That should not be that regular everyday Americans, your neighbors, maybe even you, are getting help. That should not be what we're mad at. We should be mad at billion-dollar corporations are paying no taxes, that billionaires are paying little to no taxes, that they're getting tax cuts. In fact, some of these corporations actually get paid by the government because their tax cuts are so great that they actually get tax refunds. So not only do they, in some years, pay no taxes, but the government pays them because they actually get tax refunds. So, I mean, you let me know your thoughts, but when these stimulus programs go to regular everyday people, we should celebrate it and not try to withdraw it and say, "Oh no, we're not going to help people," because if we do, then they might actually have money that they could spend on food and rent. Let me know your thoughts here in the comments. I'll keep you up to date here with everything going on here in our country. So make sure to subscribe down below to our YouTube channel. It's completely free to do so. You can click the bell icon also as well, so you get notifications when we go live. Remember, new videos come out here every day at 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can click here to watch my newest video next, and you can also click here to see new $750 checks that are going to be going out here to some Americans here as well. So click on one of those videos next. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.